Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing both nights of NXT's The Great American Bash, which aired live on the USA Network on July 1st and July 8th from Full Sail University. And yes, I decided to split off both nights of Great American Bash and Fyter Fest by company and not by night 1 and night 2. So I'm just going to be talking about NXT here for a little bit. But with that being said, let's get started. Night 1 on July 1st kicks off with some really nice pyro on the stage. And I love the aesthetic here. The red, white, and blue ropes and the two cars. Really cool stuff here. And night 1 kicks off with the fatal 4-way elimination match to determine the #1 contender to the NXT Women's Championship. It's Tegan Nox, Dakota Kai, Mia Yim, and Candice LeRae. Tegan Nox and Mia Yim pair off with their respective adversaries, Dakota Kai and Candice LeRae, to start off. Everybody starts brawling. There was a scary bump near the beginning of this match by Dakota Kai on the apron that looked like it really hurt. Candice LeRae hits a very impressive dive out to the floor, knocking out Tegan Nox. But back in the ring, Tegan Nox and Mia Yim decide to form a temporary alliance, hitting a double suplex on Candice. And there is a one-legged code breaker by Mia Yim on Candice LeRae, and that eliminates Candice LeRae by pinfall. I was very shocked to see how quick Candice LeRae lasted in this match. Now, I actually would have thought Mia Yim would have gone first to kind of get the heat on Candice for the street fight, but they reversed the order here. And honestly, with what happened at the top of night 2, this order makes a little bit more sense now. But getting back to it, Mia Yim and Tegan Nox continue to work together. There's some really nice chain wrestling from the three women left at this point, but Mia Yim eventually takes control, hits alternating suicide dives to both of her opponents on the outside. Yim hits a code blue on Kai for a very close near fall. Mia Yim hits soul food on Tegan Nox, who almost on instincts rolls out of the ring to avoid a pinfall. Back in the ring, Dakota Kai has a beautiful victory roll on Mia Yim, and that actually eliminates Mia at that point. So we are down to Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai, the bitter rivals dating back to TakeOver War Games when Dakota Kai turned her back on her former best friend Tegan Nox. Great booking here. And this ending sequence between Nox and Dakota was so awesome. Great selling by both women. Dakota Kai had a lot of really fancy footwork, and Tegan Nox had some really scary looking headbutts that looked painful. And I feel like both played their roles extremely well here. Dakota Kai as the obnoxious, not so obnoxious, but kind of the despicable heel in control, and Tegan Nox, of course, is the babyface in peril. There was a lot of really nice near falls in this sequence also. But the finish comes around. Tegan Nox escapes a submission attempt from Dakota Kai. She hits the Molly go round and finally the shiniest wizard to pin Dakota Kai, and that's it. Tegan Nox can't believe it. She is the new #1 contender to the NXT Women's Championship. I'm going to give this match 3 3/4 stars out of 5. This was a fantastic opener. All 4 women worked extremely well together. I think the only thing I would have changed is the elimination order. I would have had Mia be eliminated first and then Candice, but honestly, for the purposes of putting Tegan Nox over and finally having her pin Dakota Kai after all this time, I don't know if the elimination order matters that much, but it's just a little bit of a nitpick from me. The final 2 is exactly what it should have been though. Tegan Nox finally dethroning her former best friend to become the #1 contender to the women's title. Now, I don't know if Tegan Nox beats Io Shirai at this stage, but honestly, I feel like regardless, Tegan Nox's ceiling is so high. I expect so many great things from her. Expect her to be a pillar in the women's division, not just in NXT, but maybe even going forward on the main roster. Tegan Nox is great. Dakota Kai as well. Really amazing heel, surprisingly. Fantastic wrestling work from all 4 women, though. Really well done. Speaking of wrestling work, Timothy Thatcher versus Oney Lorcan is up next. Timothy Thatcher is a beast, guys. I haven't seen this much intensity out of an NXT wrestler since probably the current WWE champion Drew McIntyre. He has such a high ceiling in NXT. And Oney Lorcan, formerly known as Biff Busick on the indie scene, I have always had a soft spot for him. I've always thought he was super underrated, so I was super glad to see this match get a spotlight here at the Bash. But right off the bat, there were so many submission holds in this match. Now, I did not write down the names of all of them, but bless his heart, Mauro Ranallo listed off the names so accurately of all these really unique submission holds, each one looking extremely painful in their own ways. These guys told a really great story in this match. Timothy Thatcher constantly worked over Oney Lorcan's left arm. Oney sold it So great. And that's one thing about this match that I really loved. It's really unique from other matches in the sense of there's times where wrestlers will focus on a body part, they'll sell it, and then later on in the match they'll forget about selling said body part. This match was consistent in that regard. It told a really great story, working over Oney's left arm, which hurt like a mother for him. And I loved how Thatcher recognized it and kept going after it with unique submission holds. And this match was stiff also. These guys were beating the absolute pudding out of each other. Hard strikes, hard knife edge chops, stiff suplexes. Oney Lorcan gets a really nice near fall after a German suplex. Thatcher counters it with a butterfly suplex. There's another near fall. And for the finish, Thatcher locks in Oney Lorcan in the Fujiwara armbar. Lorcan taps out, but Thatcher has this crazed look on his face, and he keeps that submission hold on a little bit longer after the bell just for good measure. Really strong match here. I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 5. Now, just a heads up, not everybody is going to be a fan of the style of this match. Catch as catch can, as Mauro Ranallo described it. These guys, I don't think they left the ring to go to ringside one time in this match. I could be wrong, but if they did leave the ring, it was very minimal. And that's one thing I really liked about the match. It felt really unique from everything else on both cards. To me, this also felt like a legitimate amateur wrestling match. Very minimal pinfall attempts, mostly submission-based wrestling here. There were a lot of really nice transitions, just great work from both guys all around. I think the match loses points for me because it was extremely predictable to see that Timothy Thatcher was winning this thing. NXT clearly has high hopes for this guy, so I don't think they're going to book him to lose anytime soon at least. Oney Lorcan still looks strong in defeat, but you know what? There was no doubt that Timothy Thatcher was winning. Not everybody is going to like this style of match, but me personally, I really enjoyed this thing. Next up, we have the 2-on-1 handicap match as Rhea Ripley goes up against Aliyah and Robert Stone. The stipulation of this match being if Rhea Ripley loses, she must join the Robert Stone brand as its next client. And for any of my viewers out there that are surprised that Robert Stone was wrestling here, keep in mind, this is the former Robbie E of Impact Wrestling. So think again on that front. And of course, as soon as Robbie E walked out with that marvelous Mark Marrow-inspired ring gear, complete with the goggles and the boxing gloves and the trunks that are pulled up way too high, I knew what kind of match we were in store for here. And Rhea Ripley hits Robert Stone so hard with a knife edge chop. He rolls out of the ring. There was actually some pretty nice work between Aliyah and Rhea Ripley in this match. Nice Hurricane Rana from Aliyah. But Rhea Ripley regains control. Pinfall attempt on Aliyah. Robert Stone breaks it up, of course. Which leads to my favorite spot of the match, right? Okay, you have Rhea on the outside of the ring. Robert Stone goes out for an outside dive. And Rhea just looks up and then she just walks away from the plancha attempt. And Robert Stone just eats it on the outside. It looked like a scary bump, but in hindsight, it was funny as hell. Aliyah eventually capitalizes on Rhea Ripley busting up laughing at Robert Stone with a diving attack to the outside of her own. Double submission on Rhea Ripley at this point. Robert Stone is a Boston Crab and Aliyah has a crossface. The heels actually have momentum here. Double suplex, but then Rhea Ripley starts to make her big comeback. And there was a point actually where I think Rhea Ripley threw Aliyah to the point where Aliyah's foot kicks Robert Stone right in the crotch, and rightfully so. He sells it just like he was Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 2005. Rhea Ripley gets that weird leg hook submission on both of her opponents, one in each arm. Robert Stone immediately taps out. Rhea Ripley wins the match. Was there ever any doubt? I'm going to give this match 2 stars out of 5. Again, not everybody's going to like this style of match. This is clearly the comedy match of the night, but the comedy they worked in, I thought, really worked. And it was a very pleasant surprise, actually. This match got 10 minutes. I was expecting no more than 5 minutes for this match, honestly. But I thought all three did their jobs pretty well. Rhea Ripley, I think this was just something for her to do while she's out of the title picture for the time being, just to keep her on TV. But not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. Not everybody's gonna like this match, but I found myself laughing at it from time to time. Up next, we have the first ever strap match in NXT. Roderick Strong versus Dexter Lumis. And Roderick Strong, of course, the stipulation is that both men are tethered by a leather strap at the wrist, and they can't exactly escape each other. The only way to win is by pinfall or submission. Roderick Strong at the start of the match is terrified to get tethered up in this strap. Dexter Lumis doesn't even hesitate tethers himself up, but the referee has to convince Roderick strong, and he sold that so well. Dexter Lumis dominates the early part of this match with his stalkerish blank stares and his power moves and the man games maggle. Roddy at one point tries a knife edge chop, but of course Dexter no-sells it and starts beating him up some more. I thought there was a lot of really innovative stuff that they were doing with the strap in this match. I was really pleasantly surprised. There were points where Dexter Lumis was coiling up the strap a little more, kind of like an extension cord almost. That way he can get closer to Roddy, and he can't exactly escape from that distance. I thought that was a really unique way to sell the story that they were trying to tell here. Of course, there were some really brutal spots with the strap, using its momentum to carry Roddy over. At one point, it carried him into a flip bump on the floor, which looked painful. Roddy then tries to escape, but Dexter follows him near the entranceway, and he opens up the trunk of the Dodge Viper car that's at the entranceway, almost in a callback to the backlot brawl from Takeover in Your House. What Dexter's idea was in order to put Roddy in the trunk, he can't drive it out of the arena. I didn't exactly understand that logic, honestly. Roddy then starts to make his comeback with boost to the face, and he hits an Olympic slam on the concrete floor, which had to hurt. And then Roddy starts making a comeback. He starts using the leather strap as a weapon, getting a couple of nice near falls here and there. And Dexter hit a vicious clothesline at one point, and Roddy sells it by doing a flip bump for it, of course. Roddy eventually hits a superplex on Dexter for a nice near fall. The two go back outside the ring, and that's when we get Bobby Fish interference. And there was a really, really nice spot where both guys are running towards the ropes, and Bobby Fish gets clotheslined by the strap. Kind of made me think of one of those guys from Survivor in Confessional saying, and he gets clotheslined by the clothesline. Just awesome, awesome stuff. But eventually you have the finish coming around. Dexter fights off Bobby Fish. He hits a sit-out Uranagi on Roddy, and then he locks in the silent submission hold using the strap for leverage. Roddy taps out. Really, really fun strap match, actually. I'm going to give this 3.25 stars out of 5. This was a much better match than I was anticipating. Like I said, I think these two told a really good story, and they really found a lot of innovative ways to use this stipulation to their advantage. Roddy has always shown that he's capable of putting on a good match with anybody, and I've never been the biggest fan of Dexter Lumis, but honestly, he played his role supremely well here, and he looks dominant. He's a really unique kind of creepy, and he really surprised me in this match. He really impressed me. Great story. From there, we move on to our main event of night 1, champion versus champion non-title match. The NXT Women's Champion Io Shirai goes one-on-one with one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Sasha Banks, with her partner Bayley in her corner. I am so ready for this match, and everybody was hyping it up on Twitter when it was announced, and honestly, this match did not disappoint. Natural chemistry does not come around very often these days, and I am so glad that these two had as good a chemistry as they did. The match started out with some good chain wrestling sequences, Sasha of course playing the arrogant heel, but once Io Shirai hits a beautiful missile dropkick, it's on. Shirai with a nice offensive flurry up until Bayley rolls down one of the car windows at ringside and she honks a car horn enough to distract Io, enough for Sasha to knock her off the top rope. Io was selling Sasha's moves really well, the vintage double knee drop, for instance. But Io comes back with a really nice looking Frankensteiner, and Sasha sold that Frankensteiner really well, I might add. Shortly afterwards, Io then hits a 619 and a beautiful missile dropkick springboarding off the top rope. That gets her a near fall. And I will say there was a little bit of a minor miscommunication at this point. Io Shirai wanted to go for a German suplex. Sasha wanted to land on her feet, but instead it ended up her almost taking a really accidental nasty bump to the head. It looked really scary. Glad to see Sasha's okay though as the match continues. Sasha eventually locks in the bank statement in the middle of the ring. Io Shirai with a beautiful counter rolling out of it and hitting a double foot stomp. Beautiful transition. And the ending of this match is where it really picks up. Banks hits a Meteora for a really nice near fall. There was a really brutal powerbomb by Sasha on Io into the hockey walls at ringside. And after that's over, heel Bayley is just so obnoxiously great. She is so giddy at ringside after that powerbomb. Sasha goes for a frog splash back in the ring. Io with a great counter into a crossface. Sasha reaches for the ropes, but Bayley throws a title belt into the direction of the referee. The referee goes to grab it, and put it away, but that leads to Bayley hitting Io in the head with something. That's a really creative ref spot there. At this point, Sasha is reaching for another title belt, but at this point, Asuka pops up from under the ring. Her opponent at Extreme Rules in a couple weeks. Green mist. Sasha is blinded. Io rolls her up for a near fall, but it ends up Io knocking Bayley off of the apron with an uppercut. She goes up top, hits a moonsault to the back of Sasha Banks, and she pins her right there in the middle of the ring. Almost clean as a whistle. Io gets a huge win over Sasha. 4 stars out of 5. This match definitely lived up to the hype. Outstanding match. Like I said, I really admire the fact that they had such natural chemistry together. I'm really looking forward to seeing more matches between these two. I think the match loses points though because I wish this match got a little bit more time. Also, a lot of people will say that the match was kind of overbooked. I honestly didn't mind the interference though because it at least made sense with the story they were trying to tell. Not only did the interference make sense, but a lot of those spots were very creative, especially with the title belts being involved. What a match though. Great way to cap off an excellent night 1, which I would give an 8.25 out of 10. Great show. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Night 2 of the Great American Bash on July 8th kicks off with a street fight between Mia Yim and Candice LeRae. The match has an amazing beginning. Candice LeRae is making her entrance and Mia Yim jumps her during the entrance, and the match starts off fast and heavy. Lots of weapons coming into play early. Both women trade kendo stick shots. Mia ends up grabbing a table and leans it up in the corner of the ring. Should probably come into play later. Mia tries a dragon suplex to the table, but Candice reverses. Ends up being a victory roll for Mia for a close near fall. Back outside, Candice is working over Mia's right shoulder on the ring post, and Mia ends up returning the favor, posting Candice's shoulder. And at this point, the match kind of breaks down. They go beyond the guardrails. They brawl in amongst the crowd area. They go towards the little food table that they had at Full Sail, just throwing miscellaneous shit at each other. Eventually, Mia Yim goes up on top of a little platform there, and then Candice out of nowhere douses Mia with a fire extinguisher. I always love that spot. It's super fun. Candice attempts a superplex off of the platform through the table, but Mia reverses, drop kicks Candice. She ends up going through the table, and it cuts to commercial. Mia is sent face first into a stack of steel chairs. Actually, I stand corrected. It was just one set-up steel chair over there. Mia goes face first. The stack of chairs comes in later, thanks to Candice. Candice ends up bridging the table I mentioned earlier on the top rope, and then Mia starts to make her comeback here. She puts the garbage can on top of Candice. She's wearing it. Super kicks Candice, cannonball into the garbage can. That gets a near fall. Mia Yim ends up pulling out a pair of brass knuckles, and Mauro Ranallo loses his mind. The finish comes around. Mia Yim is still wearing the knucks. They're standing on top of that bridge table I mentioned earlier. Actually, I don't think they were standing on the table yet. Yim goes for a brass knuckle shot. Candice blocks it with a chair, which must have hurt. Then they go to the top of the table. Candice LeRae ends up prying the brass knuckles out of Mia Yim's hand. Candice ends up punching out Mia Yim with the knucks, swinging neckbreaker off the top rope on the bridge table, through the stack of chairs. Really crazy finish. Candice LeRae barely pins Mia Yim. Great storytelling here. Felt like the end of a rivalry. I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 5. The match gets bonus points for the storytelling, the selling of both women. I loved the usage of weapons throughout. This felt like the legitimate end to a rivalry. I really enjoyed this, actually. However, there were points where it could drag, unfortunately. I feel like this also would have been a lot better if the alignments were reversed, i.e. if Mia were the heel and Candice were the babyface. Now, I love Candice LeRae as a heel, don't get me wrong. I think this is a really refreshing turn for her, but she is just such a natural babyface that it was kind of hard to get invested at some points. It's nothing against Mia Yim at all, but I don't know, it was a weird dynamic. Credit where credit's due, though. This felt like the legitimate end to a rivalry. It's definitely a fun opener for night 2. Good stuff here, for sure. Moving on to Bronson Reed versus Tony Nese. Some fun trash talk and banter between the two to start off. Tony Nese absolutely baffled that Bronson Reed's abdominal section is nowhere near his. And that's in terms of, like, muscle definition, I would say. Tony Nese was baffled, though. Couple lockups to start off. Bronson Reed, of course, has the upper hand as the bigger gentleman. There was a lot of great power displays by Bronson Reed and some great athleticism from Tony Nese, who I've always thought was super underrated as well. Bronson Reed has control for a little bit, but there's a point where Tony Nese, Fit Finlay style, grabs the ring skirt on the apron. He puts it over Bronson Reed's head, and then he hits a baseball slide. Nese regains control. Some nice near falls up to this point. Bronson Reed makes his comeback, hits a Dusty Rhodes bionic elbow, and then some really great counter wrestling and a lion salt by Nese gets a near fall. But the finish comes. Tony Nese is turned inside out by a vicious lariat from Bronson Reed, which turns into a diving money shot from the top rope by Bronson Reed, splashes down on Tony Nese, and that's it for the 3 count. I'm going to give this match 2 stars out of 5. Nothing overly special about this match. Both guys played their roles pretty well here. I don't know, there wasn't anything overly special about this match. It was a TV match, pretty much. I can't really complain too much, though. Both guys did pretty well with what they were given. Moving on now to Johnny Gargano versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. In Swerve's biggest match of his career up to this point, his potential is so high. His ceiling is so high. I can't wait to see what he does here. My dude Johnny Gargano also can do no wrong. Amazing new entrance music. Johnny Gargano is my favorite on the NXT roster, in case you couldn't tell. Really nice chain wrestling between the two to start off. They had some really great chemistry. Swerve hits a Hurricane Rana, and then it's on. Both guys go for some diving attacks to the outside of the ring, constantly countered, and it ends up being a standoff on the outside. The referee almost counts them out at that point, too. Thank God he didn't. Back in the ring, Gargano goes for one final beat, which is countered, which turns into a moonsault plancha by Swerve, which takes us to the commercial. Back from the break, Johnny Gargano has taken over. There were some really stiff strikes in this match. Swerve had a lot of really crisp punches, and Gargano sold them super well. Like, Swerve's punches have so much sound to them. They sound like they actually hurt. Great rope work by both. Swerve hits a pay dirt, which is Shelton Benjamin's finisher, for a very close near fall. Gargano hits that nice slingshot spear he does for a good near fall there. This is such a back and forth match at this point. Swerve ends up hitting a house call, but it takes a while for him to get the cover. Gargano instinctively rolls out of the ring to avoid the pinfall attempt, and Swerve, frustrated, needless to say. Back in the ring now, Gargano attempts almost a Gargano escape. It's like an STF variation, but Swerve ends up rolling him up out of that submission for a very close near fall there. Some more excellent counter wrestling. What a super kick on the apron by Swerve. Lots of very close near falls near the end. Swerve goes for a double foot stomp near the finish. He misses. Gargano spikes his head with a vicious reverse Rana inside the ring, which leads to eventually one final beat by Gargano, and that's it for the 3 count. I'm going to give this 3 3/4 out of 5. Excellent match between these two. Again, I'm convinced Johnny Gargano can do no wrong, and he showed it here. Great chemistry with Swerve, who has so much potential. Probably my favorite match of Swerve's career up to this point. I can't wait to see what else he does. I think where the match loses points, though, is the fact that there was never any doubt that Gargano was winning this. I mean, it's similar to the Timothy Thatcher match from night 1. There was never any doubt that he was winning, but his opponent still looked strong in defeat. And that's the case with Swerve here. Looks very impressive. Also, if I were to nitpick a little bit more, I would have liked a little bit more time for this match, but nevertheless, really great stuff. There's a nice video package plugging the Tegan Nox Io Shirai Women's Championship match, which will be on NXT next week. And I also popped for the Tale of the Tape for the winner-take-all main event later tonight. Felt very much out of 2003 when I first started watching wrestling, or around that time rather. But our next match is a 6-man tag team match as Elegado de Fantasma goes up against Drake Maverick and Breezango. Santos Escobar, the leader of Legado, is the NXT Cruiserweight Champion, or interim at this point. They're not mentioning the interim term anymore because Jordan Devlin, the current champion, is actually not able to compete due to COVID travel restrictions, unfortunately. But yeah, Legado is a great faction. From what I've gathered from them, really cool. Breezango enters as Los Conquistadores. Perfect. But this was a really fun match. All 3 members of Legado looked very strong. Very great heels here. I like the Undisputed Era style armbands that they have, but instead of this little logo, obviously it's their own skull and crossbones logo. Very cool. I also was really impressed with Breezango's outing in this match. Fandango especially. I love Tyler Breeze. I feel like Fandango was the MVP of this match, though. His selling was so amazing, especially on the leg when he was getting the heat from the heels, building up to the eventual hot tag with Drake Maverick. Really great work from all 6 combatants here. But eventually, Drake Maverick gets the hot tag. He runs wild a little bit on Santos Escobar. There's a wheelbarrow bulldog by Maverick in the ring. All hell is breaking loose at ringside with Breezango and both of Santos's cronies. But eventually, I forgot to mention, Drake Maverick left shoulder and the back of his neck covered with the kinesio tape, so he's not 100%. Great selling by him here. Santos hits the Phantom Driver in the ring on the injured neck, and that's going to do it for the pinfall. I'm going to give this match 3 stars out of 5. Very, very fun match here as a buffer in between the last match and the main event. Again, I feel like this match could have benefited with a little bit more time. I think a little bit more of the near falls in this match would have made for a better one. But it's a fun 6-man tag as it is. I will give the match bonus points also that the champion did not lose non-title on TV. The main roster has done that for years. At this point. Years! The champion loses non-title. It sets up a title match between the guy that pinned him and the champion down the line. But the champion ends up getting the pin here. Bonus points there for at least being different. After this, we get an interview between Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. Basically, Johnny Gargano is calling out Finn Balor. Looks like we're getting another match between those two, which I'm not going to complain about. Great. And that leads up to Santana Garrett versus Mercedes Martinez, who's making her return here. Mercedes Martinez gets a big badass entrance, and Santana Garrett walks out as just another woman on the roster. Is there any doubt who's winning this one? But there were some brief bursts of offense from Santana, but eventually Mercedes hits a bunch of onslaught of offensive maneuvers. She hits a Fisherman Buster on Santana, and that's it. 1 star out of 5. Not really much to this match, just kind of a buffer between the 6-man tag and the main event. But it did exactly what it needed to. It put Mercedes over as a badass. Not much else to say about that one, honestly. We get a brief little video package with Mick Foley and Shawn Michaels offering predictions to our next match, which is our main event of night 2. NXT Champion versus NXT North American Champion. Winner take all. Adam Cole versus Keith Lee. Big match entrances and big introductions for both guys. Keith Lee is fired up for this match. Adam Cole, as confident as ever. I will say, though, that Adam Cole's entrance is not exactly the same without a jam-packed audience screaming Adam Cole baby along with him. But the early going of this match, mostly the guys feeling each other out. Adam Cole trying to break the big guy down. Keith Lee is toying with him at this point, though. A big pounce by Keith Lee showing off his unbelievable strength that sends Cole to the outside. Lee follows him out, and he looks right into the hard camera, and he says, "You remember Johnny Gargano?" Great callback to Takeover in Your House. He's planning to put Adam Cole through the hockey wall, is what he's referring to. But he runs at Cole, and Cole moves out of the way. Keith goes face first through the plexiglass on the outside. That looks like it hurts. And Cole eventually regains control. Great psychology here as Adam Cole continuously breaks the count out of the referee as he continues to work over Keith Lee on the outside with bicycle kicks. He brings Keith Lee eventually back into the ring, hitting bicycle kicks galore and swinging neck breakers, getting some near falls. Basically just getting the heat on him. Great trash talk from Adam Cole. You're nothing, you hear me? You could never win the big one. God, Adam Cole is so great. Cole eventually goes to pull down the knee pad for the last shot, but Keith Lee's hand, great shot. The camera's zooming in on that knee pad, but you see Keith Lee's hand coming in and intercepting that thing. Such a great visual. Keith Lee eventually makes his comeback. Adam Cole goes for another bicycle kick, but Keith Lee with a great counter picks him up for a huge power slam. I swear, he held Adam Cole in that power slam for a long time before eventually bringing him down. That gets a near fall. Big knife edge shot by Keith Lee. And he also makes a great reference to Rocky IV that made me smile. I must break him. I mean, a little bit more lighthearted than how I just did it, but that was the reference that Keith Lee made. Keith Lee is eventually hung up in the ropes. Adam Cole hits a backstabber for a nice near fall. And I will also say Adam Cole was really great at selling Keith Lee's onslaught of offense, and Keith Lee is Keith Lee. Unreal strength. He hits a huge Cesaro superplex over the top rope on Adam Cole. Amazing near fall. Adam Cole with a barrage of super kicks. Keith Lee picks him up for a power bomb, a sit-out power bomb. He goes to pin Adam Cole, but Adam Cole reaches out and puts one finger on the bottom rope. Amazing visual. Brought me right back to the Kevin Owens-Chris Jericho feud of 2017. I love that spot so much. Back outside, Adam Cole hits a huge enziguri. And back inside, Keith hits a huge pounce and an even bigger spine buster for 2. And then Keith Lee goes up to the second rope and he hits a gigantic moonsault for another close 2 count. Adam Cole, by the way, sells that moonsault incredibly. Keith Lee picks Cole up for the Big Bang Catastrophe. Adam Cole breaks out of it. He hits Keith Lee with a super kick after super kick, though, and Keith Lee starts hulking up. Another super kick breaks down Keith Lee, Adam Cole nails him with the last shot, but a near fall. And a great call by the commentators. How many can say that they've kicked out of the last shot? Cole goes for another last shot. Keith Lee shoots up and hits a huge clothesline, flipping out of Cole inside out in a scary looking bump. But Cole then hits a Panama Sunrise and gets a near fall. 3 more straight super kicks, another 2 count. Adam Cole just cannot put Keith Lee away at this point. And eventually Cole hits a second last shot on Keith Lee, but he does not go for the cover. No. Adam Cole knows better than this. He goes up to the second rope. He's going for another Panama Sunrise. He says, "Good night, everybody." But Keith Lee counters the Panama Sunrise into a Spirit Bomb. Then he hits the Big Bang Catastrophe shortly afterwards for the 3 count. Keith Lee is the winner-take-all and the brand new NXT champion. Big celebration after the match for Keith Lee. Pyro, confetti, you got it, the works. Karrion Kross and Scarlett are watching from a distance, watching this celebration go down. That's probably your next feud. But this match was so awesome. 4.5 stars out of 5 for me. Such an incredible main event. Probably the best match of both nights of the Great American Bash, if I had to think about it. There was so much emotion in this match, so much psychology, such great storytelling, and I could not help but smile when that 3 count hit. I am so happy for Keith Lee. Finally, after 4 years in the promotion, Keith Lee has finally reached the top of the mountain. And I can't wait to see what else he does with this reign. I don't know what's going to happen with the North American Championship, if he's going to keep defending both of them frequently, or how much longer he's going to have the North American title, but who knows at this point. Adam Cole also has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. 403 days, the longest reign of the NXT Championship in history. He was so incredible in this match. Great work from both guys. But I'm going to give Night 2 of the Great American Bash a 7.25 out of 10. Not as strong as Night 1, not as consistent as Night 1 in terms of the overall in-ring action. But nevertheless, really well booked show, an incredible main event. Really solid nights of action for NXT, for sure. And I would love to see them bring back the Great American Bash annually at this point. It felt really unique to all the other shows they've done so far this year. But that's going to do it for my NXT Great American Bash review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in. If you like what you're seeing from me, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can. Also, keep an eye out for my reviews of AEW Fyter Fest and AEW Fight for the Fallen next week. I will, of course, have more film reviews up very soon. As always, you guys are the best. Seriously. Thank you so much once again for tuning in. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.